Yo, what's up? Um, in this video or this lecture, I want to go over standard deviations and just how I personally like to use them because they're a big part of my strat, and I feel like a lot of the people that you guys might see on TikTok that are top ticking, they're most likely using standard deviation. Okay, so let's quickly recap what standard deviation is, right? So these are my standard deviations. Um, Normally, people will have the 1.5, 2, 2.5, 3.5, and 4. But I like to have these values up here just from like what I've studied. These work really well. So each one of these areas has a very specific purpose. So this zero point 0.5 to 0.618, typically this is where you'll see a shallow run within an internal range or a point of retracement. And if we break through this level, we'll reach our -1 to 1.5, which is most commonly known as our reaccumulation zone. And we can also retrace, but more than likely we'll reaccumulate. And this zone, normally it's the -2 to 2.5, but I have these upper limits. This entire area is where you want to see. This is where the main reversal zone lies. And then we'll reach this big deviation up here. So typically from the -3.3 and a quarter to -4, this is your max reversal. And if price doesn't want to reverse around this area, and typically we'd want to see an additional turtle soup, price will reach -4 to -4 and a quarter or 3/4, and this is our extreme. Okay, so I'll drop the settings for this fib, and um, I'll explain any questions more in depth that you guys might have. So let's go here. Let's start with last week's price action. So if I mark it out, today's what, the 3rd? So Friday. Oh, there's just this entire thing, this entire range. Monday was it was weird, so I didn't trade that day in particular, but I see a very clean setup going here. Yeah, okay. So with standard deviation, what you want to look for are manipulation swings. And if they have an SMT, that's an added benefit, but you don't always need the SMT to be there in order for you to have a valid projection, right? So here, we around 9:45, we sweep this pool of buy side up here and before manipulation leg, right? So what you'll do is you'll mark it out from the swing high to a clean swing low, which in this case would be right here for me. This is just how I would mark it out. And another thing I want to note is you want to project legs where a breaker block is present. So this is our breaker right here. We have this breaker, and you can see how many times it's held within price action. So we project this leg, and we get areas where we'd want to see price or we want to see price key off or reverse. So if we go, let's start on the H4. We don't really have anything here, but on the hourly, we have this order block, right? Bang. And it aligns very nicely with our -2s. And we also have this fair value gap. So going back to the 15-minute, we have this right here. And one thing I want to also include are supporting deviations. So to validate a standard deviation, you want to look for price to react around specific levels and then form a clean leg. So this 0.5 and negative 0.6818, right? You can see how we had a nice move up. And this would be your leg right here. Not from this high, because this was just a turtle soup. That was just a run. From this high to that low. And you can see we've aligned standard deviations. So I'm going to make this... I thought I had a different color, but I don't. So we have this area of interest, right? And with aligning standard deviations, you want to make, or you want to have a box up for you to show the average or the middle of the two deviations, right? And you can see we tag into the CE, 7 points of drawdown to then deliver almost like we delivered 300 points. It's pretty absurd. But of course, you'd want to check for your entry model, SMT, everything. So down here, right, we formed this SMT. ES is just way, way, way lower than NQ. So we'll mark this out as our SMT. So we know that this low shouldn't be tagged because of three factors. We have our aligning standard deviations projecting this order block that's also in, if I'm not mistaken, let me mark out this dealing range. From this low to this high, aligning perfectly with our 0.705, our OTE level. So we have that. We have our order block, SMT. So we have four confluences now that indicate price will start to reverse in the opposite direction, right? So in terms of entry model, what I like to do is my go-to is a 3-minute order block, but sometimes you're not always going to get that. You're going to have a big stop, or you're just going to miss the entry, right? Price will go on without you. So what I like to do is on the 1 minute. Okay. Main things I look for: rejection blocks on the 1 minute. So when you see something like this, price wicking around this area, you can enter on an order block, or you can just enter on CE of this wick, or you wait for price to return to OTE of this delivery leg, right? So I'm going to clean everything up. This is our protected low, so price should not tag this. So what you could do is place a limit right here, right there, because it's our 0.618 OTE level. And I like to run around a 10-point stop. But if you're feeling a bit riskier and you want to, or whatever your risk rules are, you can place it down here or even down here. But me, I like to use a 10-point stop. And we can then project from here, because this is the start of a new buy model, right? Keying off of what we learned from the market maker model lecture. So here, the manipulation leg is too big. So I would use the first distribution leg right here. And our negative twos align beautifully above this high right here. Right here. And we can just have our TP there for a total risk to reward of 24. And you can see here how you rejected off of this negative 2. Another example, this was the cleanest one in my opinion, right here, Friday. So price comes in, we take this high, turtle souped it, and we had this divergence, right? Let's see. I think with this candle's high, but I don't really like that divergence, but it's still there. So we'll just mark that out. High to the low that formed the breaker. This is your breaker right here, right? And we get some nice projections. And price projects right here. Let's see if there was an H4 level. Nope. Order block. So we could mark out. I also like to mark out OTE and discount, or 50%, sorry, of my PD arrays. So right here, 2.5 aligns nicely with this. And you don't just want to blind limit this, right? You want to wait for confirmation, and you can keep scaling down up until the 15-minute and mark out your points of interest. So we have this 15-minute order block, and we have this CE that aligned beautifully. And like I explained to you guys last time, you want to look for legs that react off our standard deviation projection, right? So this one came in very close proximity of the -1, but I'd still mark it out. So this is your leg. And we don't have the 2s aligning, so I wouldn't use this leg at all and just go off this main deviation. But this trade I would still take because we have this SMT up here and we have a clean manipulation and price is seeking to go lower. So we have this area right here, and this is our point of interest, and we have this SMT. So in this low right here, we know that we don't want this to be tagged. Like this low should stay intact. And here, 3-minute, if I go to my normal criteria for entry, we have this 3-minute order block, but then again, price comes down and sweeps it. And here, this is where you put in the SMT, right? So you want to wait a little bit before confirmation, or you want to confirm either by seeing if we re-soup, because more likely or more times than not, we'll have a true turtle soup, which is, your initial turtle soup, and then you'll turtle soup the low that turtle soup. So it'd be your true turtle soup. But 3-minute wasn't very clear. So dropping down to the 1-minute, this was our sweep, SMT low. So this low should not be tagged. And if we mark out OTE, we can see that price goes on without us, right? So in this case, we wouldn't have a trade. And here, price just runs. And since we have this valid SMT low here, we could also project this. And the -2s top tick this move down. I'm going to keep doing 15-minute examples because the 15 is what you usually want to be on when you're looking for daily projections. Let's go to this week. I'm going to replay this. Actually, just move the mouse. Trying to see if we had an SMT here for us to mark. No SMT, but we can still use a projection here. This high to this low of the breaker, right? And we're projecting into this low right here. So this would be our point of interest. And you also want to mark out your dealing range. So here to here, and this low falls below discount. So we anticipate a reversal in this area. And if we look at a yes, it fails to take that low. Let's see if we also had an array, hourly order block. And we have that 15-minute low within that order block. So it makes it very high probable that price will reverse from here. So we have our deviation, SMT, and we're anticipating a reversal, right? So let's drop down to the 5-minute. Whatever your preferred time frame for entry is, drop down to that, see what price is doing. Mine is a 3-minute. And we have this 3-minute order block right here. So this was my entry this day, right here. And we can take, of course, we can always take our OTE. And I had my limit set right here, running a 10-point stop. I think it was a bit lower, like 11 points, because I didn't really care about the 1-pointer drawdown. And then from here, since we're anticipating a buy model, we can project low to high of the manipulation, and we get our values. So I partialed around this area, and then I held a runner over here, and you can see 15 RR trade. So the checklist is, first you want to look for, let me bring up the text. First you want to look for high/low to be taken with SMT, and it's not needed, but it's preferred. And then you want to look for your manipulation leg with a breaker, and that's the most important part. And you'll mark this out from low to high and vice versa to the higher low with the breaker. I'm gonna just higher low or low high with breaker. And then you want to see your -2 to -2.75 area as main reversal. And here you want to monitor whether or not we're putting in an SMT. And if we don't, we're more than likely going to head towards our -4. And another thing you should note is once we close through our -2s, we'll more than likely reach the -4s. Actually, I skipped a step here. After you mark out the breaker, you want to mark out your supporting legs. So the supporting legs are essentially just the legs that react off of our -0.5, 0.618, and then -1, -2. But you don't want to use -4 because that's our main or max reversal area. And then 5, check for SMT and enter using main entry model. This is essentially your checklist, right, for standard deviations. Let me add the -4 to -4.75. So yeah, this is essentially just the gist of standard deviations. Short lecture for this because I just want you guys to familiarize yourselves with how to mark them out and how to mark out your supporting deviations, and just being able to see, like where a clean manipulation leg is for a valid standard deviation. So any questions, of course, again, me and Creed, our DMs are always open, and peace.